Welcome. Thank you for joining the Live in Divine Harmony podcast. It's Carmen, your spiritual leader of purpose and numerologist. I lead those who are feeling frustrated and lost and wondering what's next in life. They desire a community of connection. They desire fulfillment and joy, and they desire to live their purpose every day. They've turned to everyone else for answers, including New Age practices, which didn't work. They overbook their calendars, claiming there's not enough time, and they're exhausted at the end of each day, wondering, why is my life not working? Through coaching programs and events, I guide my clients to truly live their divine purpose and live intentionally every day. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share, and hit that bell for notifications so you never miss another episode. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of the Live in Divine Harmony podcast. And we are in this time of going within, of renewal during this month of March 2025. It's definitely what I call a doozy. It's kind of like a roller coaster. It's sometimes you may feel like you're in this spinner or being chewed up and spit out and you're not quite sure what to expect next, which is the month. It is your truth is activated. You are being activated. And everyone's experience is going to be different. And there are a few things that I have noticed online, which brings me to today's podcast episode. And I'd like to share a story with you first, because I feel like a lot of you can relate to an experience that I had several years ago. And I feel like a lot of you may be there as well during this time. And depending on your next choice depends on the outcome, what you're going to experience. And really, that's what's happening right now during this month. I mean, in the couple past previous podcast episodes, I've shared how this eclipse season is going to impact you, and how these retrogrades, we're in Mercury retrograde right now, Venus is retrograde. And I just share the high level information with you. I don't get into, every week by week what is really happening. And there's a lot happening right now. And I share the high level because just having that knowledge is extremely helpful for you to truly live your purpose every single day and not get caught up in the chaos. And I'm going to mention it again that yes, this year is going to continue to be chaotic. And it's really up to you, and it's your choice. One, what you do with that information, and two, how you move forward. And that's partly why I started a new series on all of my social media platforms. And the name of the series is Things You Can Control. And every month, I'm going to touch on the one item that you do have control over, because there are some things in our life that we do have control over. And I think they are good reminders for all of the change that we are experiencing this year, because this is just the beginning of the year. And I chuckle sometimes and think it feels like it's not mid-March. It really feels like we're halfway through 2025. So I was in a class the other night, and there was a topic that was brought up. The topics that were brought up in this class brought me back to a time in my life where I worked in corporate land. I call it corporate land affectionately. I worked in corporate land for almost 20 years. And I've shared part of this story before, and I'm going to share some new pieces to it. One of which, I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy where I was. I also wasn't sure what was next for me. And I had the business. It was Spark and Celebrate at the time, Events Growing Communities as an event planner. And I was, you know, starting to do events and getting hired to do events and really kind of putting myself out there and understanding how contracts work. And the type of events that I was doing was not your big corporation events. That's not what my passion was. My passion was the nonprofits, socials, fundraisers, galas. That's what I was really good at. And I was really passionate about it. And it's interesting actually that we're talking about this because I met with a friend who works at a local event planning company, event planning business. And I had met with her how many years ago when I first started my company. And she asked me, she said, what are you passionate when it comes to events? Because there's all different types of events. And that's when I realized, she did what's called destination management, the big, big events. And I just had really no desire to do that. And I had started the company and I was still working full time in corporate land as well. And corporate land was simply not fulfilling me at all. And I also started to go down my spiritual journey at that time. Um, both of those things happened simultaneously where it was okay, shifting spiritually, what does this look like, and then opening the business as well. And a part of that journey was performing burlesque shows. That was my creative outlet. I am a creative and I did not realize it at the time, and I was not tapping into that creative part of me at all. And by the way, there's a difference between being that creative, and every single person has that energy inside of them. It's a matter of, are they igniting it? Are they tapping into it? And so when I work with clients, a lot of times that comes up in the Live on Purpose course, because that's one of the questions I ask is, how are you creating? And they say, I'm not. And we are every single day. We're creating with the universe. We're co-creating with the universe, with God. And so we are creative beings at heart. And that is a piece of me personally that I need a creative outlet. And so when I realized that, and I also realized that my creative outlet was dancing and that I was not doing that at all. I was working 8 to 5. And I honestly, at that time, I may have been working a lot of overtime as well. So I threw myself into a job that I really didn't like, but it paid the bills, and would go out all the time, drinking, meeting people, having fun, partying basically, and and volunteering at church, really kind of volunteering my life away when you really look back at it. And I wasn't really happy. I was not fulfilled in any way possible. And that was a new outlet for me. And I love to meet new people. I'm constantly meeting new people. And I love to meet people from different backgrounds, different walks of life, and learn new things, new trades, if you will. And I ended up, I was invited to watch a burlesque show here locally. And it's so funny because where I live, most people have no clue that it even exists here locally. It's almost like kind of underground in a way, and you got to know somebody who knows like where to go. I feel like now it's probably a little bit more mainstream than what it was before, but at that time it was definitely, if you know, you know. And I went to the Fringe Festival, I love art and theater. I always have. And I went to a burlesque show and I honestly had no clue what I was getting into, what I had said yes to. And I had so much fun that night. Now, if you know anything about fringe shows, most of your larger cities have them. They showcase local talent. Sometimes talent will come in from outside of the city And the whole idea is it showcases local talent. And normally the shows are under an hour, and that's how they're designed. And they can be anything and everything under the sun as far as art goes and theater goes. So I go to this show, and it was in one of the art districts here locally. And I thought, well, that's cool. Like I would never want to perform. And that would just be fun to kind of be a part of. And they were putting on classes to learn how to do this. So um that started me down that track of, oh, this could be potential outlet for me, for my creative outlet and for my dancing outlet. And by the way, true burlesque is not solely singing, it's not solely dancing, it's not solely stripping. There's a lot to burlesque that most people don't realize. There's different types of burlesque. And I share that because you automatically are going to have in your mind what you think it is. And I laugh because most people think it's like the movie Burlesque, and it's not. And I started to help out. Well, first I started to take classes, and then I was like, yeah, I can totally, like, wouldn't it be fun to help at a show? Wouldn't it be fun to I was a kitten, during the shows. I got to dress up, play a character. I got to choose that character and have fun. And you're meeting a whole different group of people. And really, you're entering this whole new world, if you will. And I did that. That started, I think, like in 2014. No, 2013. I had my first show in 2014, in the beginning of 2014. I joined the troupe at the end of 2014, and then I did a ton of shows, big shows in 2015. I got injured in 2016. I still performed, and I started to actually learn how to be one of the MCs at some of the smaller shows, which a lot of it was I learned stage presence. How do you have a stage presence? What does this look like? Um, I mean, it was a crash course in a lot of different learnings in different areas of life. And then in 2017 is when I stopped. Um, and honestly, when I lost my job in corporate land, I stopped performing. It was one of those, I've got to choose. At that time, it was fun. I didn't really make any money at it. I probably spent more money, honestly, making the costumes. It's a ton of time. Um, I was um, always on the go, hardly ever at home. You know, you would perform depending on the show type. You could perform um, one big show one weekend, and that could be 2 days. It could be like a Friday, Saturday. There was one show we would do, which was 2 weekends, which was a Friday. I think it was Friday, Saturday. I don't know if we did Sundays or not. I don't remember that. But you were constantly on the go. And it's not just you're performing in the show, it's the rehearsals, it's the preparing, it's the tech week, just like you would if any of you are in theater or have ever done theater before. And it was a constant of you would eat out late at night afterwards. I definitely did not eat healthy at all during that time. Um, Consumed a lot of alcohol. It's just a whole different environment when you are in that world. And I would remember that after shows, I would hit a low energetically, emotionally. I would hit a low. And it's like you spent so much time together in I would say, like a short condensed time. right? So, like, for 1 or 2 months, you're with these people day in and day out, and you're working on costumes, and you're developing routines, and you're, making changes, and your creative juices are going, and you actually have the performance, and then it's over. And it's kinda like you crash energetically. And I now understand why there was that crash, right? Which is energetically, you're putting yourself out there and there's, validation. I need the validation. There's certain needs I had at that time that were being met, and honestly, not in healthy ways at all. And there was a lot of attention. You would take pictures with everybody, all of the work, leading up to the show. And it was mentally, emotionally, and physically exhausting. And when I look back on that time in my life, I had my health was declining. I had IBS, which after I was diagnosed with it, you check in with the doctor every year. And I remember the doctor saying, actually, once I were to leave that corporate land environment, that the IBS would go away because it's all stress induced. And I thought that was interesting that a doctor would tell you that because normally they're like, just take a pill and I'll see you back, which we did. I was on medicine for it. I was not holistic in any way possible at that time. I had anxiety when I went to work. There was 1 year where I had to go through physical therapy again for my knees. I have what's called patella tilt, something I was born with. And I think that was like maybe my third or fourth time doing physical therapy. So I knew what I was in for. And I had stopped yoga because going to the rehearsals for the shows got in the way of yoga classes. I was experiencing mental abuse while I was at work, working the full-time job, which, by the way, if they knew, which I always kind of wonder, how could they not know? Um, I feel like some people who worked there knew that I did this performance. They never came to the shows. And if they would have known, I definitely would have been fired on the spot. And actually I did, I eventually got fired. The last 3 years that I worked there, I just did not show up. And a lot of it's because I was unhappy. It's not what I wanted to do. It's not where I wanted to be. I had my business. It wasn't making any money at that time because I felt like I had to prove myself first. And sometimes at the beginning of a business, you would do pro bono work and just kind of make a name for yourself. And I just knew that I wasn't supposed to be there. I was not supposed to be at that job anymore. It's like I had learned everything that I needed to learn in order to move forward. And if you were to have asked me probably 5 or 6 years ago about me losing my land, losing my job in corporate land, um, I would have said, I would have been a victim about it, right? And how dare they do that to me? And I do laugh because of how it happened and and really honestly the series of events about I'd say 6 to 7 months afterwards that happened as well. And now when I look back on it, I can truly say that losing that corporate land job actually saved my life. And it put me on a whole different trajectory that got me to where I am right now, today. And perspective is so incredibly important because it does shape our world. It shapes how we look at things, how we interact with things and people and experiences. And I have a whole different perspective on that time in my life right now. And I also have seen on LinkedIn how many people are getting laid off today from what they do. And some of them see it as a huge blessing. Some of them are understandably in fear. They're freaked out. I get it. I was too. I was let go without any financial backing. It was basically, hey, this isn't, a good fit anymore, and we're letting you go. And there was no negotiation or offer of a severance, even though I'd been there for almost 15 years. And I thought that was interesting, which I feel like I know why that was not offered now. And that, even in and of itself, was a blessing. I did not see it at that time. I was in fear. I was scared. Um, I was angry, very angry. And being let go of a job definitely messes with your mind, for sure. And it's all in how you respond afterwards, which is what's going to change the trajectory of your life. And in some cases on LinkedIn, I'm seeing how some of these people are saying, yeah, this is a blessing. I'm a mom of, 3 kids, and now I actually get to be home with them, and I'm figuring it out as I go along. And it also gives them the time to reflect, which is a beautiful thing to do right now. We're in Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, eclipse season, like, of all times to reflect. This is the perfect time to do it. And I used to have an understanding and a belief that I needed to just keep pushing through, and that's what society tells us to do. You need to take action on this, you need to go do this. When in actuality, what I'm learning from my teacher, Leanna Shanti, is that sometimes it's just go within. There's blessing inside of you. And so just sit there, be open, be present in the now moment, and just listen. And a lot of times we don't do that. And maybe that's your quote unquote action that you've taken today. I am seeing on social media how a lot of people are responding in fear to the changes that are currently happening here in the United States. Because I know I have listeners who are in other countries. And for those of you living here in the United States, notice, how are you responding to all of the changes that are occurring right now? It's no different to a job loss. It's no different to any major change in your life that maybe you didn't quote unquote vote for, ask for. And how are you responding to it? And I go back to that it's in how we tell our stories. I can now tell my story and share my stories from an empowered viewpoint, saying, yeah, like, me losing my corporate land job truly saved my life. I was going in a downward spiral at that time. And it did take me several years to, I would say, get on an upswing. And a lot of that was the coaching program that I went through in 2019 is what helped me put me on that trajectory of the upswing. And now, and it's like that was a level up, and then another leveling up working with Leanna as well. And honestly, as I am studying to be a quantum mind body therapist, that's another level up. I mean, everything that I'm learning that now I get to offer you, and that then is going to help you as well level up your life. Like, I'm so excited for whenever that happens, whenever we can start to work together. And it all goes back to your purpose. Everything that we're talking about in this podcast episode goes back to purpose. It could be that you weren't living your purpose, not even close in corporate land, but it paid the bills. You're unfulfilled, you're unhappy. Always make sure your bills are paid. Yes. So maybe you get a part-time job or something in the meantime. And for some of these people who've gotten laid off, I know when I got fired, I was so unhappy. And it's kind of like breath of fresh air in a way. And especially right now, my days look completely different than what they used to look like, I would say even a year ago. And there's so many blessings in that because I'm choosing what my days look like. I'm choosing um, what to spend my time and energy on, who to spend my time and energy with, where that focus is. What am I focusing on? What's next for you as far as what I'm offering you? I mean, I asked myself that today. I'm going to change the name of the mini masterclass because it's way too long and that content is so freaking good. Everything that I have, all of the instant access programs are so juicy. And I know that once I graduate with the certificate for Quantum Mind Body Therapist Life Coach, that's just going to level up everything that I currently offer, plus expand the current offerings. Like I know this. I have no idea what it's going to look like. I won't know that yet. And I'll know when I'm supposed to know. And it's me following my passions, following my purpose, living my purpose every day, that I can offer it to you. And if you are one of, in a place right now where you're unhappy, you're not sure what to do next, you're not sure what your next steps are, that's where I can help you because I've been in your shoes before and give you the tools that I've learned and in some cases that I use every single day to truly live my purpose. Remember that your purpose is not your job. It's not to go out and just make a bunch of money. And by the way, that doesn't make you rich. And that's not a part of your purpose as much as society wants you to think that. They want you to be in that rat race. They want you to be in that hustle mindset because it takes you actually further away from your purpose than you truly living your purpose. And if you do anything right now, especially during this month of March, I invite you to start to ask yourself that question every single day as you're making decisions about who to spend time with, what to do, what next steps to take. Ask yourself the question of, is this bringing me closer to my passions, closer to my purpose, or not? Because there are so many time wasters out there. And I also see some people who I wouldn't 100% say they're living their purpose. What they do, they really enjoy, and it brings a lot of joy to their life. And there's still some unfulfillment there. And so go within and ask yourself that unfulfillment, what is it? Because really, it's fulfillment inside yourself that you're looking for. You're just masking it with social media, alcohol, hanging out with your friends, could be, getting in the chaos or gossip or whatever, getting in everybody else's business, except for looking at your life. Because it's easier for us to do that. then go within and get uncomfortable and ask yourself some of the hard questions of what it is that you really need to look at during this time. And that is a beautiful way to truly work with and harness these energies throughout the month of March. So, if you would like information about any of the instant access programs, Live on Purpose course, How to Exit the Matrix, the Cultivate Confidence and Clarity Masterclass, the mini masterclass, which it would help everybody right now move through these obstacles during this time. I teach you how to create time for those of you who say a lot of times, I don't have enough time. There's so much, I call it juiciness in just the mini masterclass alone. I will put a link in the show notes so you can go check that out. Um, Thank you so much for tuning in. You can always also join the online community as well. We're in there. Um, and it's up to you. And feel free to ask questions in there as well. Let's connect in there. And until next time, sending you much love. Take care.